What's going on YouTube? It's Biggs. We're back at it again with another One Piece trading card game video. Today we're talking about, I guess you can call it a little controversial opinions that have been circulating throughout the community. Revolving around set 5, in my opinion, the concepts kind of exist already. Um, in set 4 that's coming up soon for us. But a real growing sentiment is that decks like Yellow, which I have was excited for initially, but have come to realize very quickly that the concept of Yellow kind of goes against the design philosophy of the game. But I'll get to that in a second. Um, with Yellow being very, very popular in set 5, we're looking at some results here. Again, it's early on in a format. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the end-all be-all, this is how it's going to be. But generally speaking, it has boiled down into about 3 decks at the top with a sprinkle of, other decks. We can see here that I think this was a relatively big tournament. There was 9 rounds. And Red Green Law was able to place first here. Let's be real, I've always said Law design-wise was way ahead of its time in set 1. The concept for the ability, the way it works, the strategy is like a design space that was way ahead of like simple mechanics that we had in set 1. And definitely because of that is being so powerful. We'll still sneak up every once in a while. I don't think this deck is ever truly bad, even in a format with Fire Fist that we had to slog through these last couple months, unfortunately. Law not only has won a regional, but has consistently hit top 16. So Law is never going to go away. But boiling down to what has been going on in set 5 that has players so on edge, is that it's kind of like a dice roll of what your matchups are going to be. There's 3 really powerful decks because they all do unfair things. Well, it's about 4, with the 4th one being the most fair deck in the format, in my opinion, in this blue-black Sakazuki. Like, don't get me wrong, he cheats a little bit, but it's not as bad as the other 3, in my opinion. So we'll start with the big one with Yellow. I think this is definitely the most unfair in the format because you get rewarded for losing. So what I mean is the way the triggers work in the game, like I never a fan of RNG elements of video games of card games. I'm thinking of Hearthstone, that's why. Anytime there's like coin flippy abilities, it really takes away from the skill level of a game. And Yellow, in my opinion, is the most skillless color. Sorry to say to all the people who hate on Red. There's a reason why only a couple players who consistently do well with Red will always be at the top of the format. You can say, oh, that's RNG. It was like, how many top 8s do the top Red players have? I think Jackson Huang like top 8'd and then he got first the next day at a Treasure Cup by piloting Zoro. It's not as easy as it sounds, for as much as people want to shit on it. Knowing how to do combat math appropriately, and just overall the fundamentals of playing the game can be expressed more in Red. I think the deck that shows how to play the game the best is probably Green, where you need solid fundamentals to consistently do well with that deck. And we obviously have seen Green still, able to place in a top 8, top 16, but that's more of player skill than anything else. So if you think you can just pick up Red one day and then win an event the next day, if you're not a good player, then that's not going to happen. Yellow, however, I feel is the most rewarding no matter what kind of player you are, because again, you get rewarded for actively losing the game. What do I mean? You get trigger blockers for free. Yes, it costs cards from your hand, but you're able to recoup life, which in turn helps you recoup resources in the end by maintaining that card advantage. Um, Sanji was a big addition. Beige was a big addition. This Beige is a trigger defensive card, basically, that completely is, you cannot play around this ability. If you have a character left that can attack and you would go for game, this circumvents that entirely. And then obviously the new big player on the block that's kind of overshadowed Katakuri recently is Enel. And his ability is once per turn, on your opponent's turn, you can trash one card from your hand to gain a life basically when you hit 0. So even though he's a 4 life leader, he's technically always at 5. And because he can repeat this isn't once per game, which it should have been. This is once per turn. So he can repeatedly do this. Use abilities to regain life if he has the opportunity with things like Katakuri, 7-drop Mom. This Yamato, regardless, if you're a 1 or less, she will always give you 1 life back, which is not that hard for Enel. And then just efficient bodies, like I said, that just come off trigger with the Satori, in being that you're in Enel. You have Sanji, like I said, that a lot of people forget that blockers can attack. So just being able to get a free 5k body with both of these guys is kind of stupid. You have Gadatsu. You have your 5 cost 6k that acts as removal basically and has a 1k counter, so he's never really dead, which I think was dumb too. Like Yellow has really, in my opinion, become a deck of no skill at all. Again, you get rewarded for actively losing. Every time you take a life isn't actually a chance for you to gain board. When you look at the design philosophy of the game, it's a very board-centric game. You need to fight for board. You should be ahead on board, and being ahead on board is how you should be winning most games than not. And Yellow completely ignores that idea because you're able to gain board for free by, again, losing. You get too much value off these trigger cards, in my opinion, that no other deck can keep up with, and the fact that Enel keeps regaining life to give you more opportunities to hit these triggers, while also having an incredibly powerful top end with the 8, 9, and 7 here. Again, there's no other way to say it. Like, it's skillless. You can argue all up and down all day saying, well, I built my deck, and no, the deck built itself. Let's be real. You didn't have any real creative decisions when constructing the deck. You put all the triggers in the deck, you put the top end in the deck, and the deck plays itself. I'm not saying that there's not opportunities for skill to come through. Like, obviously, if you're brand new to the game, you're not going to win a tournament. But you can definitely still probably do pretty well with Yellow, because again, it rewards losing game states, which I think is really bad. Like, this is a comeback mechanic and a half. Like, if you play fighting games, I hate those two. But this is a comeback mechanic that's way too powerful, and I'm just not a fan. And then again, Enel does something completely unfair in prolonging game states that he shouldn't be able to come back from. Then next, my favorite deck, but again, I can admit when this concept, this idea is way too powerful. I'm not a fan of Ace, though. I think this is a stupid inclusion because getting to 7 is extremely hard. And then wasting slots on more Dawn cards is bad, in my opinion. But I'm not going to talk about deck construction right now. I'm just going to talk about the concepts. Again, this is a leader that lets you cheat incredible amounts of value into play. By Dawn minusing 3, you can bottom a 3k power character on your opponent's side and then place a 4-drop or less from your hand, which is extremely powerful. Why? Because I can spend my Dawn, play a 4-drop, Dawn minus, and then get another 4 to 3-drop. And I've essentially cheated 7 Dawn worth of characters, or 8 Dawn sometimes, for 4 Dawn. And then obviously we have a couple ways to recoup Dawn with Shachi Penguin, Beppo, and Captain Kid here, which is why I think 5 is as high as we should be going. 7 is way too hard with our Dawn minusing ability. I think if you wait too long in a game to use this ability, you're playing the deck wrong, which is why I think anybody who's experimenting with like the Whitebeard Pirates versions, I know Cross AI was talking about that at some point. I just fundamentally disagree. I think it's too hard, too slow. you're not leveraging what the ability is for, and that you can swarm board very quickly, very fast, out-tempoing your opponent by removing their mid to late game, well, more mid-game creatures, characters rather, with things like Gamma Knife, Gordon, Otama. There's also Film Law. There's a couple ways to build the deck. This isn't the end-all be-all, but the core is there and the concept is there. So this is, again, you're cheating Don, you're tempoing out by removing your opponent's board essentially for free while gaining advantage, which I think, again, is just, it's too powerful. It's a little too strong in my opinion. And then again, I was talking about Law and Zoro. They're still decent decks, but when you have these guys just dominating, and I didn't show the other deck that I think is also fundamentally broken, is this purple Luffy. Any game that lets you do ramping, you have to be careful, because ramping into big things quickly is a very easy way to steal games. Which is why I felt like when purple first came out, they kind of toned it back a little bit with their abilities or their Don ramping resources, because again, you have to toe the line here carefully, because it is a very powerful thing to be doing. Being able to get ahead of the curve, even by 1 Don or 2 Don ahead of your opponent, is extremely huge. And this Luffy not only does that at any point in the game, so long as you have life cards, he's also doing a Whitebeard-esque ability where you're able to draw a card basically by taking a life card to add a Don. Which again is extremely powerful. We've seen how dominant Whitebeard can be, because why? His ability to draw cards every turn off of his life improved consistency through the roof. Do I think that some of Whitebeard's package was overpowered? Absolutely not. But the fact that the leader, again, 6k power on the leader is one thing, but the fact that you were able to gain resources continuously over the course of the game was extremely powerful. And this Luffy does that. Doesn't have the 6k power, thankfully, but again, it's cheating you the Don. So this 9-drop Kaido has come back in a big way. It's very powerful now. You're able to play this 7-drop Kid, which is like a mini Whitebeard every turn he attacks, which is extremely powerful. Then you have things like the 5-drop Kid that help you recoup any Don that you Don minus. And then this 10-drop Luffy that I did say you always have to be careful. He's one of the best finishers in the game right now. I think 1 to 2 copies is best. I don't think 10-drop Kaido belongs anywhere in our meta. But this 10-drop Luffy kind of takes that spot, because he's able to get back a turn for you basically. So the turn you tap out is an extra turn for you, instead of just passing back with like, oh, I didn't do much, I just played a 10 down card. So this is a very quick and easy way to win a game. You attack with all your board, your leader, then you slam 10 drop, and then you get your final attack in. And obviously, if you're setting this up, you should be winning the game. If not, then you obviously don't play him. But that's it. That's the whole idea. Don and free card advantage is, again, just too good for what it's doing. Free life cards and leveraging the fact that even though you're losing the game, you can end up winning the game because of how many broken trigger abilities you have. Yes, it's a bit casino-y, if you want to call it that. But as Yellow has gone on, I did say that a long time ago, you have to be careful on how you balance this color, because too much of a good thing will end up being too powerful, and then this leader ability in conjunction with all this is proven to be extremely potent in the early days of their meta. Red Purple Law is skill intensive, yes, but at the same time it's a lot of value very quickly, and sometimes if you're not fast enough to get off the board, like to get to the board and try and fight, it can be a pain in the ass to come back from. And again, you have these two decks that are like, I know people hate on red, I get it, guys, but you're gonna wish that this was the best deck again when you have to play against RNG, Whitebeard with ramp basically, and then red purple law just for moving your board while attacking you 5 times a turn. As early as turn 3 sometimes. I fucking overwhelm opponents all the time with this deck. This deck's dumb. So that is something that I've noticed. I know a lot of top players on Twitter have talked about it. They don't feel that it's skill intensive anymore. I think sideboarding would be really, this would be the time to incorporate a sideboard metagame for more deck expression. However, when you have decks that are incredibly overtuned right now, it's just there. We don't really have the sideboard options to leverage, in my opinion, yet. To kind of try and fight against these decks, I think they overtuned them, and now we kind of have to deal with it. Unfortunately, the East might have to pay for this for for us in the West, like they did in the previous restriction list. Like they complained about it for a long time, never got anything, and then we got all the bans and restrictions upon release. And then I'll talk quickly about my favorite deck right now. Again, probably the most fair. You're getting a card a turn. Well, technically you're cycling a card a turn with this ability, and then you get a little Don minus effect. Not Don, a cost minus effect on your attacks. So very powerful. You're able to see a lot of cards in a game, but fundamentally nothing extremely broken here. It's just, again, a deck that rewards good fundamentals. You obviously have an extremely powerful curve of 5, 7, 9. You have 7 here as well. This stage is in and out of the deck from what I've seen, but I understand why it's there. It's just sometimes all you need is that one extra reduction in cost. But overall, this is, again, probably the most fair deck. This, like, I guess you can call it control deck. It's very tempo-y, like between things like Zeph, Usopp, or Sogeking, sorry. Just able to leverage these abilities to tempo for the turn and then play your hard removal cards is extremely good. This Rob Lucci is still really good for things like Law, who again I don't think will ever really disappear from the meta ever. I'm not a fan of how this was built, but I don't think the concept of Law will leave anytime soon. And I think that's okay because again, Law is extremely skill intensive, and unfortunately, the only problem I have with Law is that he never gets anything really good. Like there's no one drop or something like that that's like, oh my god, that would be busted in Law. And we also haven't had any new supernovas, anything like that for a long time. So unfortunately, that's my only gripe with Law, is that there's nothing new really. But Sakazuki, the most fair new leader coming in. I guess you could say the most broken thing, however, is this Rebecca. She's a blocker for 4 that also buys back a card that you've put in your discard pile. And then you can also play a 3-drop. There's not really much you want to use this effect for outside of like a Barto. If you've had to like mill or anything like that, you could at least buy it back as an additional blocker later in the game. But that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about for like set 5. And the way the design philosophy of the game has gone, I can understand why there's a lot of frustration right now. And I agree. Again, my biggest gripe with the format is definitely this yellow deck. Yellow in general has, again, I don't care whose toes I step on, the least skill intensive deck in the entire format. Probably Big Mom, you can argue, requires a little more play to. I agree. But overall, the color, the concept, kind of carries itself, and I don't like that. I'm okay with top tier decks. I'm not okay with top tier decks that require this little skill to play, which is another gripe that I've seen from players like, I think Alfred Go, or I don't remember, but there was a lot of tweets that I was looking at this weekend. There's a lot of people who are understandably upset, and it kind of already exists in the game right now. In set 4, he hasn't put up that many results like in Japan, and like the Eastern meta, but however, alright, like this overall, like even now is incredibly powerful. Being able to curve, you know, 4, 6, 8 into 10 is incredibly good, and then have these cards that just come in for free. Card advantage, if you can hit this off the trigger, is incredibly powerful. It's a graceful charity. It's dumb. And then things like Thunderbolt that again just leverage bad play patterns. It's a real feels bad when you're winning the game and then you start losing the game because you were winning the game. Like if that makes any sense. Like that's the kind of game that we're in right now, and I wouldn't call this the best deck in the format at all by any means. I mean, the format has proven itself to still be, you know, red is still very powerful in set 4, assuming again we have no restrictions. If we have the restrictions we have in place, this might end up being the best deck, as it has a pretty decent matchup into Rebecca. And any black deck really. I've tried playing Isho, and this is a nightmare. This is like a 2-10 matchup for Isho because it's so hard to overcome yellow as a black deck in general. And as they've gotten even better, it gets that much harder. But that's it, guys. I don't have much else to say. Like, yellow is just dumb. It's a gatekeeper for sure. If you're not tier 1 and above, like if you're not tier 1 S tier or like playing the mirror match basically, you're not going to be able to do well in set 4, unfortunately. Yellow is a massive gatekeeping deck. It will hold a lot of decks back, and it's only getting better now and in set 5. So I just wanted to talk about that quickly, get that out of the way. I've rambled on for quite some time. I'll do a quick gameplay video to end the video. Stick around for that. Also, real quick, just wanted to say this before we hop into the video. This isn't me complaining. This isn't me asking Bandai to jump in, ban some things, remove things. This is just kind of like me sharing my thoughts, some discourse. You know, I would love to hear from you guys in the comments about it. You know, it is what it is. Like I'm still gonna play the game. I love it. But that doesn't mean that I can't comment on things that I'm noticing that I'm not a fan of. That way that, you know, maybe somehow our message, if you guys agree with it, that is, like, maybe hits Bandai and maybe, you know, we can tone it down a little. In Magic, we have like power creep sets that happen a lot. And then when that does happen, the future sets kind of bring it down a little bit. And I think that's what needs to happen. Again, as far as restrictions or bans or anything like that, we're going to have to wait a little while. Again, it's still early. However, I think it's pretty clear with what we're seeing here, like what is the best deck as far as like locals, some bigger tournaments. If you don't know, a flagship is kind of like a store championship basically, and it's like a minimum of 5 rounds. You have the championship series, which are bigger. They're 9 to 10 rounds, depending on how many players signed up. And then these standard battles are kind of like a local. So like you can take some of these with a grain of salt, sort of. But for the most part, as we can see here, like consistently across all kinds of like the format there, we know what the top decks are. So again, I'm not complaining. I just want to talk about it. I would like to hear people's ideas. Be respectful, guys, in the comments too. Don't be mean to each other. If you want to be mean to me, go ahead. I'll crap on you anyway. But we can have that discussion in the comments. All right, back to the gameplay. All right, just gonna do a quick game with Katakuri, showing what I mean, like when I say like gatekeeping. That's a lot of triggers in my hand. Obviously, this 6 drop though is really huge. I'm still gonna mull. Not too much better. All right, but we still found what we're looking for. I can still attack on turn 2 and then play Perospero. plays Nami. Interesting to see how he builds 2K Sanji. Alright, it's attacking for 8. Very easily take this one, no trigger. Thank you. We'll attack for 7, look at my life. We'll leave that on top. That's amazing. See what he does. Nothing. Let's play Paraspero like I said. Next turn I might actually might develop Randolph. That way I can get an attack in. Kind of want to maximize our attacks per turn, but we'll see. I mean, this 8K rather, is just so good into these 6K leaders that might end up being the better play. I'm probably going to take another hit here, so actually we'll use Randolph to counter. And then just develop Big Pero. Take, use the trigger. We'll trash the other Paraspero, get a free blocker. We'll attack here to see if I can get him to give me a free card off the 3-drop. And then we'll play big guy and pass. So far hasn't developed anything that matters. Very slow off the start here. No early ramp either. So there's the 7-drop. It's attacking for 7 into me. I'll take one more hit. No trigger. Unfortunately, not a lot of anything going on here. I actually might play Cracker. So I'll attack. We'll look at my life. Leave that on top if I have to get hit again. Only 5 cards in hand. I just want to see if he'll burn cards for this. Okay, he ramps into 7. I mean, grants. He was going to go to 10 next turn anyway with his leader ability, so it's not that big a deal. It's just another annoying body, I guess. Maybe for like a last game swing or something. All I'm going to do is develop a Paraspero anyway, so let's just attack for 7. That way the 10-drop mom on top gives me a shot at lethal. We'll attack for 10 now. You play Jet Pistol in this deck? You play Fire Fist. Ew. Got. What'd you discard? Oh no, I'm sorry, it was a trigger. Definitely wasn't considering this card. It's very Nambo in these ramp Luffy decks. Well, there's 10-drop. Where do you attack, friend? Sure. Yep. It's pretty good. Given our life situation, I don't think I should take that. So do this. We'll go. We'll look at opponent's life, sure. We already know what's on top of ours. And we'll play Kata to put this on the bottom. Pass. I like purple red Luffy. Personally, I like doing the Whitebeard Pirate stuff better. I think it just complements the strategy better. But interesting build. Not a fan of Fire Fist, however. You're not Whitebeard, so you don't get resources back quickly. You're also not Zoro, where you're playing like 50 ways to replenish your hand. So, nah, I don't know. Alright, we're taking 11 for sure. Plays another one. I will do my best to counter if anything he does here. I think he's wondering if he should go like into Hawkins here to get an extra attack in this turn. And he agrees. It's a 2K. This should also be 2 and a 1. So we'll just go 5 there to reduce his attacks. Yep. And then we'll play Mommy. Actually, we'll attack for 8. Should pull. Oh, he just plays it. We'll trash the last, then pass. Let's see if I can scum him out here. Still have 2 beiges that are possible, and 3 Sanji, as well as any, whatchamacallit? Beige, Sanji, and Brule. So he has to win the game right now. I have 5k in hand, 2 life. Let's see how he distributes his Dawn here. Yep. Oh man, this is interesting. I love Red Pepper Luffy, but like he's definitely not without his weaknesses. Being at 3 life hurts a lot, even though he has the 6k power. A lot of people debate what's the most powerful thing about Whitebeard. It's definitely the drawing the cards. The 6k power is just extra benefit. It's the culmination of those 2 things that have kept him meta for so long. Luffy has half of that in both spectrums, in that like he doesn't have as much life, can't draw that life, and then you know, just the 6k power is, I guess, the trade-off sort of. That's a 1. Could have minused off Hawkins. Why didn't you minus? Sure. If I get a disgusting trigger, I will laugh. Like if this last one is beige, my god. And you guys can all understand the frustration of playing into yellow. I think he's thinking about it, and I was like, man, how do I swing into this last life? Do 11 and 12. Anything less than 11 is a mistake, though. Yeah, 11 and 12, and then my last life is. Unfortunately, fair opponent. Sometimes that happens too. Yes. So, I mean, that could have happened in any deck realistically, but like I definitely had way more outs to my last life there, just because I'm yellow. So, unfortunate. Sorry, opponent. But 2Ks are also things that I can find. That's it for the video though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You, again, don't have to agree with all my takes here. I just want to have this conversation. Let other people's frustrations be known. You know, set 5 is a completely different landscape. I only played a set 4 game today. I haven't really played too much of set 5, obviously because we have like half of it realistically and on the sim right now. But I did want to talk about the design philosophy of the game a little bit, where we are, where we're going, and if it's where we want to be. Because I fell in love with the game because of the combat. I love the way the combat is. I love how thought-provoking it can be when you're attacking board, etc. Knowing when to transition from board control to trying to swing life, all these other things. You know, the little mini games like law where like you have to fulfill your conditions before you can really take off. Like, I like those things. Granted, we've had to deal with some pretty unhealthy things like Zoro, but is this necessarily the solution? Power creep this far ahead? I don't know. This is a lot. So let me know how you guys feel. If any of you guys are playing in the Eastern meta, comment down below your experiences as well. Would love to hear it. But that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.